Ruth's son was her pride and joy. Her faith in Kevin knew no bounds. When he was a suspect in 43 rapes and sentenced to life, Ruth tried to hire a hitman to kill the prosecutor and the judge. Tonight, mother and son break years of silence to talk to a current affair. In Texas tonight, it looks as though there's a real-life poltergeist taking place at the Haney home. Their house is over a graveyard, and the ghosts are busting out all over. And there's a chilling warning from the North Pole. The Iceman cometh. Watch out. It's Ice Station Elliott. Hello, everyone. I'm Maury Povich. Welcome to A Current Affair. There are few emotions stronger than a mother's love. There are few crimes more despicable than rape. The story of Kevin and Ruth Coe involves both. The tangled saga of the Coes and their crimes became the subject of the best-selling book, Son. Our producer, Catherine Williams, tells us about the attacks that terrorized Spokane and the mother and son whose actions led them both to jail. 10 years ago, a serial rapist went on a rampage, attacking the women of Spokane, Washington. He became known as the South Hill Rapist because of the neighborhood he prowled. But his violent acts terrorized an entire city. He struck at night and early morning. He preyed on women jogging alone through parks and wooded areas, waiting at bus stops, or just out walking the quiet streets they had always considered safe.
I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I wasn't provoking anyone or doing anything wrong.
In March of 1981, a man named Kevin Coe was arrested for the crimes. According to police, from that day on, the rape stopped. But the South Hill rape story wasn't over. The next chapter was written by Kevin's mother as she tried to avenge her son's convictions.
She's a loving mother. Mothers aren't always in their right minds when their sons are sent away to the penitentiaries.
Ruth Coe tried to hire a hitman to kill her son's judge and prosecuting attorney. As the story gained national attention, author Jack Olsen arrived on the scene.
There's no story that a true crime writer likes better than a miscarriage of justice. And I would have loved it if Kevin Coe had been the victim of a railroading. That's essentially what I went over to Spokane to check out. That isn't, however, what I found.
The SHR story was a big story in Spokane, a medium-sized city that was in terror over this situation, and when they couldn't find the legitimate person, they opted for me and framed, smeared, and railroaded an innocent man.
There has never been a word of contrition. Of course, they'll say that's because he's innocent. He's not innocent. He is, in fact, in my 35 or 40 years of looking at crime, he is about the single most guilty individual I've encountered.
Kevin Coe was a 31-year-old real estate agent living with his girlfriend in the South Hill section of Spokane. He was known as the son of Gordon Coe, managing editor of the evening newspaper. His mother, Ruth, was known for her dark-haired beauty and a certain dramatic style. Today, Kevin is known as the South Hill Rapist, and Ruth Coe is remembered as the mother who tried to hire a hitman to kill her son's judge and prosecutor. The story of the South Hill Rapist remains a bitter chapter in the city's history.
I am still enraged, as every red-blooded Spokane male is, to reports of crime. And during the South Hill Rapist spree, it was reported daily, and it went on for years. And I used to think in my Walter Mitty fantasies of catching the rapist in the act and maybe even killing him.
DJ's hatred had an ironic twist. The man he fantasized killing was his closest friend and somebody he would ultimately testify against.
To discover that the very rage I felt was ultimately directed to Kevin Coe, no, it is hard. So I separate him. The South Hill Rapist is, I'm still furious with the South Hill Rapist, and yet I still have a great caring for Kevin Coe.
The people of Spokane also were reluctant to believe that one of their own could be the South Hill Rapist. The rape spree went on for 3 years before Kevin Coe was even suspected.
People were becoming scared. They were afraid to run. They were running in 2 and 3 at a time. They were running with dogs. A lot of male joggers out running would be running towards a female jogger, and she would immediately reach in her purse and pull out a can of mace.
Many of the rapist's victims were women who were out jogging by themselves. He had a distinctive and horrifying method of attack.
Basically what he would do is come up from behind the victims, grab them from behind, and then he would ram his hand down their throat, way, way down their throat. Clear back to the, again, like I said, scratch their tonsils sometime. He would subdue them this way, pull them down from behind, and he would immediately tell them, do as I say, don't look at my face, or I'll kill you.
An attack in February 1981 finally led police to suspect Kevin Coe. After 2 weeks under surveillance, he was arrested. 6 rape victims positively identified Kevin as their attacker.
The fact of the matter is, I don't even remotely look like the South Hill rapist in any of the counts.
That's just simply not true. As far as I'm concerned, my description matched him exactly.
Kevin went to trial in July 1981. The jury convicted him on 4 charges of first-degree rape, and the judge sentenced him to life in prison plus 75 years.
When you have what is now characterized as a serial rapist, their behavior over a period of time tends to get worse and worse and worse. That is, they may end up with much more serious injury to the victim, or they may even end up killing the victim. And, you know, how are we to know? But there is that kind of experience out there. It's not, doesn't take too much of a jump to think back to Ted Bundy and that situation there.
Neither Kevin nor his mother could accept the ruling of the court. While her son went to prison, Ruth went looking for revenge. Her targets, the prosecutor, Donald Brockett, and the judge, George Shields.
I think I received an anonymous call or two about it, that Ruth Coe was supposedly trying to get a contract out to have some sort of harm done to some of the people involved in the case. The information was kind of vague at the time, and of course I didn't know who they were referring to, whether it be the prosecutor or the judge or even myself.
An undercover officer contacted Ruth, pretending to be a hired gun. She agreed to meet with him to arrange the details of her vengeful plot. What she didn't know is that her conversation was being recorded.
I would have that prosecutor just made a complete vegetable so that he could never, ever be anything but a vegetable, so that we had to care for him forever, and he lived on and on that way. And the judge... You tell me what you want. Well, that judge, I'd like him gone dead, and I'd like both of them dead.
You have to understand her mentality at that point. She'd been through such an incredible ringer emotionally that to her, Brockett and Shields were like Hitler and Stalin. I mean, utter human filth. And so in her mind, killing them was a joyous blessing to the world.
Ruth went to trial in the spring of 1982. Her defense, diminished mental capacity, but the court convicted her of premeditated solicitation of first-degree murder. Despite the severity of the crime, she received a 1-year jail sentence and 10 years on probation.
And I can't let this case end without making a public apology to both George Shields, Judge Shields, and his family, and to Donald Brockett.
Ruth is out of jail on parole. Kevin is still appealing his case. In 1988, the case again reached the state Supreme Court. Because the police had used hypnosis in obtaining information from 3 of the victims, the Supreme Court decided their testimony was tainted. Kevin is now serving a 25-year sentence on 1 conviction. He will be eligible for parole in 2 to 3 years. Kevin still maintains that he is not the South Hill rapist, that he never committed any sex crimes, and that he and his family were victims of a prosecutor's vengeance.
There's something in the psychopathic structure, and I'm not referring to Ruth and Gordon, I'm referring to Kevin, that will never give up. It's like punching a punching bag that punches back. You're never going to knock it out. It's never going to quit. 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're going to hear from a doddering Kevin Coe, a gray-haired Kevin Coe, how he was railroaded for the South Hill rapes. And if his mom and dad are still alive, they're going to be right behind him, waving the flag, saying, yes, son, that's absolutely true.
This case doesn't end with my freedom. That's the day it really begins, because there's nobody in my family who's going to stop with that.
Mrs. Ruth Coe has consented to speak with the Current Affair today. We're not going to reveal where she is or where her home is at this point. Mrs. Coe, nice to have you with us. When you take a look at your son, are you still unwavering in your belief that your son is innocent?
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely, Mr. Povich. We have always known that our son is innocent. That is why we have so steadfastly stayed behind him and with him.
And how do you explain your actions, Mrs. Coe?
Well, I was set up, Mr. Povich. Mine is a very definite case of entrapment.
But you don't deny your anger with the judge or the prosecutor during those very traumatic times.
I will say that when I was offered, when the gentleman said, I understand you want a job done, that you want somebody hit, I had to stop and think whom I wanted hit.
Right.
But then it was...
And their names came up quickly.
Very.
What do you think it would convince you that your son was guilty of these crimes? What would it take to convince you?
If I thought our son were guilty, and my husband feels the same, if we thought he were guilty, we would say, you have done wrong, we're with you, but you must pay the penalty and be the punishment. But we happen to know that he is not. In the first place, we asked him. He told us no. And
you believe him?
Of course I do.
So you believe your son was set up as well as yourself?
Oh, yes.
All right. Fine. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Gordon Coe. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, and thank you.
Now, when we come back,